The world of sport is so large, the universe is so big that where do we even start and where do we even finish? But I know where to start today. I'm normally not very good on protocol, so please forgive me. But today I do think I should spend about 20 seconds on something which is very important. One, first, Prasad, where are you? Thank you so much for inviting me on behalf of the government of Telangana. To all our government personnel, including the chief, the Minister of Sports, and of course the chairman of the Sports Authority and advisor as well. And certainly a very, very big thank you to, is he here still? Mr. Jayesh, is he here? Sorry, I couldn't see you. Thank you so much. You've done an enormous amount of work, and my deepest appreciation to you and your entire department. Ms. Soniwala, where are you? I don't know where you are, but raise a hand as well. All the hard work has been done. And of course, a big welcome to the rest of the panel as well. But on one hand, the papers have been prepared. On the other hand, the rest of the hard work now needs to begin. And I do apologize also very quickly for not speaking in Telugu. My apologies from the bottom of my heart. Maybe a bit of Hindi once in a while. Anju is a Hindi specialist. But we will try and at least in the next 55 minutes or so left, dwell on what this universe of sport is all about and where we are right now and where we need to go. Because the distance is enormous, much more than 6.83. It's a really long leap that we have to make to be able to be a strong sporting nation in this world of ours. So let us not rest on our laurels. We have so much to do. Where do we even begin? And I think today, if I can have your attention for the next 55 minutes or so, we'll begin by asking our panelists, all to be very brief as we go along, where are we right now? It's very important to know where we are, because that gives us a realistic idea of how much more needs to be done. For no good reason, but because he's sitting next to me, apart from the fact that we're all very good friends. Gagan, if you'd like to begin very quickly by giving us your thoughts on where are we right now in the world of sport. And of course, we'll talk about Telangana later, but we are a nation after all. And where's the nation in the world of sport?
Well, first of all, thank you, Charu. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the government of Telangana, especially Jayesh sir and ma'am, to invite me and have me here amongst my fellow coaches, athletes, administrators, and people from my state. So it's fantastic being here. Answering your question, Charu, I feel that we're at a cusp of a sporting revolution that's going to take place in our country. Having been the chef de mission of the Indian contingent in Paris, I saw very closely how teams and countries prepared for the Olympics. Great insights from that perspective. And coming back and sharing those insights on how to prepare and where to go from here on has been a fantastic experience. And I'm so proud that Telangana is hosting its first sports conclave. And I'm sure that we will be able to be a game changer in the entire sporting ecosystem of the country. So looking forward to this action.
Thank you, Gagan. I'm still not sure where you think we are in the world of sport, but that's okay. If I can ask you, please, and I will ask everybody else to follow suit. First, a rating out of 10. Where are we right now? Not where we would like to be. Where are we right now on a rating of 10? And then we'll more, Gagan, it doesn't matter. Wherever we are, we are. The point is to then move and improve and get where we want to be.
Well, I think
it's only a figure. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, cutting it short, I think we would be at... No, but I'm just joking. I think we're a good solid 4 at the moment.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
You've doubled what I thought you might say.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Okay. Anju, where are we on a scale of 10? And then, of course, you can elaborate for a minute.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me thank Telangana for inviting me here. And I guess we need to do a big leap.
Yes.
And why we are presenting our sports bill now. Our Prime Minister, he got a big vision. When we celebrate our 100th year, we should be best of 5. So,
Where are we now? Okay, less than that. It's just important to set the, nobody means any disrespect, but are you happy with the progress that's been made in the last few years, should we say? At least that we can get out.
yeah, definitely. I was a member of Mission Olympics, I was working along with him. And we counted the exact medal during the Asian Games, but unfortunately during Olympics we missed a lot. But this is Olympics. And all the countries, they are struggling and they are trying hard to win the medal. So that's the importance, and that's why every country want to get a medal in Olympics. And yes, we are trying, we tried, and we'll continue our...
Without doubt. Sumit, thank you for being here. You look after a very important role as a part of the, well, the COO of the Dream Sports Foundation. There's no doubt, I think the government here in Telangana also, Mr. Ranjan, you've said several times that we want to make sure that the government does what it can, but it must get a lot of private support. And the support of people like the Dream Sports Foundation is critical, to my mind, to taking sport forward as one of the private players who understand sport, who know sport, who are dedicated. I've said all of that, but I would still like your rating because now you've been working in the world of sport for many years. By the way, also, I think one important part is the fact that Sumit has also worked with the government in Odisha, which has taken a giant leap in supporting sports. So he comes from a position of many strengths. But where's Indian sport right now on a scale of 0 to 10? And just give us a little elaboration for a minute.
Thank you for that question. First and foremost, thank you for all the officials from the government to invite me here. I think it's an absolute honor to be on the same dais as people I've looked up to for a very long time. Specific to your question, I think I don't want to take just a medal lens to it. I want to take a lens wherein the overall sporting ecosystem, which includes aspects such as where is the commercial trajectory going, how does that lend sustainability to overall sport development landscape. And from that perspective, I feel like we're doing a solid 4 or a 5 right now because I think the right foundations have been laid in order for there to be commercial proliferation, which I think is very essential in the longer run if you want to continue to develop as a sporting nation. Because government, and whether it's the state government, whether it's the central government with the 2036 vision, I think they're doing an immaculate job of sort of championing this activity with a lot of funding. But as you rightly said, private sector, not just via CSR, but through creation of sustainable business models, actually hold the mantle for this to be a sustainable journey over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years and so on.
What, 10, 50? Hundreds of years?
Hundreds of
But
years.
Can I ask you to please give that mic to have Anju and Gagan share? And then you guys can share that mic because we have only 3. So yours, Tathagat, because if there's one organization in India that has taken up sport and held it close to its bosom, and then made a true difference by not seeking too much. You know, every once in a while you say, I'm giving, so I must get. To my mind, and I could be wrong, what the Inspire Institute of Sports is doing in Vijayanagar is nothing short of phenomenal. By providing a high performance facility to, across the board, many sporting facilities, and really doing it quietly in their own way, but I have no doubt that the sporting fraternity of India owes what's happening in your institute a huge debt of gratitude. So thank you very much. But your thoughts on where you are, I know you're doing a lot of very good work, but where do you think Indian sport is right now on a scale of 10, and a quick thought thereafter?
Thanks, Charu, for that question. I don't think we can answer the question better than Gagan and Anjuji.
It's not better or worse, it's your thought.
I think the fact that we are here in a state, we are attending this sports conclave tells us that we are much lower than a 4. I think that's very clear. And much lower than a 4
Lower than 4.
out of 10. We have a long way to go. I think that realization has happened even within our institute as well. We have made some pivotal changes after the Paris Olympics. And now we are not only talking about LA 28, we are talking about Brisbane 2032. So it's not only about the next Olympic cycle, but the next 2 and beyond. So I think we have a long way to go, for sure. But the positive thing is there are a lot of sparks in the country. Telangana is one such spot. Odisha has led. So I think there's a realization that's happening among the states that they also have a big role to play. So which is why we are here today. So it cannot be only done by Inspired Institute of Sport or the government of India alone. So that's where we are.
Absolutely. And I have to quickly add that to my mind, well, thank you, to my mind, the two of the most important ingredients to take Indian sport forward are now mixing together. One, there's the possibility of a healthy, I hesitate to call it competition, but a healthy coming together of different states of India saying, all right, sport is also very important and we will pay a lot of attention to it and actually spend money on it, not just talk. That's a very important development in India. And the second important development, of course, is what's represented by the two gentlemen to my left, further left, is the coming together of the private sector to also be spending on sport without looking for too much. Sponsorship is one thing, it's very deeply required, I know, but to spend on high performance facilities, those two things coming together. The states saying, let's do sport. And Telangana in this instant has made this fabulous document. We now need to, of course, progress. The partnerships you just heard from Loughborough and Korea, fabulous developments. I must very quickly mention, by the way, I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much time. A similar thing was done back in 91, 92. I have a long connection, deep connection with Hyderabad, and a bunch of us were selected to represent the state then of Andhra and go and look around at other sports schools in the country. And I remember some friends of mine may even be here. 4 or 5 of us went to Rai, the Motilal Nehru School of Sports, Rai, and Kerala as well, to look at the sports schools that were in existence then and plan one for Andhra. Well, I left a couple of years after that. I don't think things took off, which is a real pity. But now we look poised, 100%. No doubt about that. My rating, I'll do it on 100. In terms of the corporate support, which is private industry, enterprise, support to sport in India, it might sound brutal, but forgive me, it's probably 2 on 100 right now. So 98% more can be done by the corporate sector. It's just waiting, I think, for what, I don't know. Maybe it's waiting for partnerships such as what Telangana is starting now, because the two do need to meet together. All right, we'll move on. From grassroots all the way up to high performance academies is a very, very big leap. We often get stuck in saying, must develop everything at the grassroots. That's a wonderful policy, only it might take 100 years because there's such a big grassroots in India, 1.4 billion people. How much do we provide what for? It's a very tough question. Yet some grassroots initiatives are being taken and they all count, in the end they all count. And we'll get to high performance just a little later. First, a quick thought, you got that microphone there, Gagan, on what's happening at the grassroots level, not just in your sport, but generally across the board.
Well, Charu, when we talk about grassroots sport, it's often a very neglected subject because everyone wants to associate themselves with an athlete, with an elite athlete, because that is where the mileage is, that is where the reward is. हर कोई इंसान, हर कोई कोच एक एलीट एथलीट का कोच बनना चाहता है, हर कोई फेडरेशन एक एलीट एथलीट बनाना चाहता है. तो आई थिंक ग्रासरूट्स का सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज ही ये है कि आप एलीट एथलीट की तरफ ज़्यादा फोकस करोगे तो एलीट एथलीट बनाने वाले इकोसिस्टम से कहाँ से आएगा? सो द आइडिया इज दैट everyone should not just water the fruit, but actually own the entire orchard, wherein, you know, any athlete grown in that ecosystem is their athlete. So from the perspective of funding also, from the perspective of support that is being given as well, from the perspective of the entire grassroots ecosystem. When I started Gun for Glory, we started with 8. We had 20 elite players in the academy which were fully funded. And sooner or later we realized कि बहुत गैप है, जहाँ होना चाहिए और जहाँ हम हैं उसमें बहुत गैप है. तो हमने थोड़ा सा अनलर्निंग करना सोचा. थोड़ी सी अनलर्निंग करते ही इंडियन टीम का प्लेयर जो है वो इंडियन टीम से बाहर आ गया, क्योंकि अगर आपको आगे बढ़ना है तो थोड़ा सा पीछे खींचना पड़ता है तीर को. तो जैसे ही पीछा खींचा हमने देखा कि अरे ये तो टूट रहे हैं एथलीट्स. फिर हमने डिसाइड किया कि नहीं, आई थिंक नए एथलीट्स बनाना ज़्यादा इजी है, ज़्यादा आसान है, और सही एथलीट बनाना ज़्यादा आसान है, ना कि एक एलिट एथलीट पे इतना फोकस करना. सो हम लोग देन वी केम बैक टू द ग्रास रूट्स, एंड माइंड यू, ग्रास रूट एंड एलिट हैव टू डिफरेंट माइंडसेट्स. मैं एज एन एलिट एथलीट जब एकेडमी स्टार्ट करी थी तब एलिट एथलीट पर्सपेक्टिव से सोचता था. जब ग्रास रूट्स में आया तो हमें पता चला कि ग्रास रूट्स के चैलेंजेस ही अलग हैं. लोगों को सबसे पहले तो स्पोर्ट में इनकरेज करना, उसके बाद उनको सिखाना, उसके बाद शूटिंग जैसे एक्सपेंसिव खेल को सस्ता करना, और फिर चैंपियंस बनाना. तो आई थिंक इट्स अ एंटायर इकोसिस्टम दैट नीड्स टू बी फंडेड, फ्लरिश्ड एंड फ्लडेड विद द राइट काइंड ऑफ सपोर्ट to make an elite champion.
Anju, you understood all of that, right? Okay, I have to ask you because shooting is a different kind of sport. And when you talk about grassroots, not easy to provide what requires in the sport of shooting, what is required at the grassroots level. It's very difficult. However, the mother sport, athletics, perfectly suited for grassroots work. And where is that grassroots work in athletics in India right now?
I think it should start from the school, because that's the place where all our young kids are spending their time. And most of the schools, they don't have even a playing ground. So what I request, at least a level field where kids can just play without any injury fear. So just provide that. And I am from a state, Kerala, where sports, actually we were getting much importance. And from the school level, we used to get grace mark. So parents are always behind the mark. They are always pushing the kids, just study, study, study. Why we need to do sports? But if we say, you will get mark, they will just jump in. And in the 10th, we used to get minimum 100 marks extra, grace mark. And in college for engineering or MBBS, we used to get quota. So, but now after 2000, I guess, they stopped everything, and you can see where Kerala is standing now. So that was the practice where in Kerala. And every school must have a playing field and a good coach. Because from very young age, if they are doing sports without any injury fear, they can reach up to the world stage. But only thing is that when I was an athlete, I was getting very shabby conditions. I was not getting proper coaching. But somehow I reached this level. But for next generation at least, that is, now sports is, we are trying to get into the curriculum. So it's a must for all the kids and experience sports. And in athletics, what we say, till 14 or 16, just experience all the events. Don't specialize in one event. Just do, there's football, either basketball, athletics, there are a lot of events. Just experience. And when you mature, choose one event.
Yeah. Wouldn't we love for all this to happen, but the state of most of our schools is not very sports conducive, which is sad, but that's how it is. So many things need to change. But of course, if sports schools come, that makes a very big difference, because then the parents are not confused about why children are going there. They know that they're going to try and excel in the world of sport, which, by the way, is a very brutal world, because very few succeed right at the top. What happens to the rest of the population that is pursuing sport but doesn't reach the top is a question that we can spend time on, but not today, not right here, not now, because that's a very large population that doesn't succeed. What do we do for them? What can we create for them? In the Dream Sports Foundation, I know that you would like to, as Gagan said earlier, deal with the top. Could there be a possibility that somebody such as your foundation could also look at a little bit of bottom of the layer scouting, some kind of, what's the word here, ability testing, to be able to bring those, fast track those people into a sporting system?
I think this question is very close to home, because Dream Sports Foundation is actually specifically focused at that 8 to 18 space. So I'm just picking off of what Gagan sir just said, right? That there is there is a lot of effort which is happening at that elite level after the athletes have gone through a certain trajectory and are now on the cusp of representing India internationally. But we've, in a way, with the vision of just making sports better at a youth level, have almost taken that mandate of bringing in a high performance layer at a youth level, almost as a pathway initiative to then pass on those much well trained, scientifically attuned athletes onto the elite level. So just a very simple example of that, ma'am spoke about school sports. So we've got the school sports partnership that we've set up with the Mumbai School Sports Association. Mumbai in itself has a huge participation when it comes to the school sports ecosystem. From our perspective, we've taken a very simple mandate of elevating their championships using talent ID and assessments that you spoke about, almost from the point of view of creating an athlete report card. Academically, you have a report card for everybody of how he's progressing from 2nd grade to 10th grade. But do we know what were the motor skills, what were, the baseline battery test parameters for this 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and how has it progressed when you come to 16, 17, and 18? So we've almost taken that mandate, and Dream Sports, being a tech company at heart, almost has picked up that, hey, we're going to try to bring assessments, we're going to try to bring sports science at a layer where it is right now absent in the Indian sporting ecosystem. So from that perspective, I think whatever we are able to do at the grassroots level, but at the same time, as you very rightly pointed out, the fact that we are a nation of 1.45 billion people is an opportunity and a problem. Because you can't boil the ocean, right? You have to figure out which athlete do you want to pick up and where do you want to take him. Which is where the role of being able to assess, just having a simple report card of an athlete when he's going into the high performance ecosystem, for the coaches, for the sports scientists to have a very clear idea on how he's progressed. So that's what we are taking up as part of our mandate, wherein we want to focus on 8 to 18.
I'm really happy to hear that. This 8 to 18 is fantastic. And I wish you all the very best in the future as well. But there's so much work being done, say here in Telangana or wherever. I would like to have the Telangana government feel that if there's somebody that talented at a young age, they have somebody like you to also depend on and try and take their progress forward. I have to go to Tathagat to find out whether they have space for the ultra-talented but not achieved yet. Because you handle only the top. And they need very close professional handling, no doubt about that. That's what you're all about, a high-performance academy. And I cannot stress enough the need for high-performance academies. And I will also give you my personal viewpoint, not that anyone's asking. I've always said, what is high-performance academy? What does it really mean? And everyone, all of us will have our definition of a high-performance academy. But I think at the base, at the heart of a high-performance academy is one thought, one definition. Cost no bar. It's a very important aspect of a high-performance academy. If we're going to say, no, only this much, no more, only that much to eat, no more, only this much and no more, only 2 flights and no more, no, it's got to be cost no bar. That's a very important aspect of a high-performance academy. I wonder if IIS understands that. They probably do, which is why they have it. And do you have space to get in some early rockets? You know, for instance, in some village somewhere or wherever, some guy says, that guy runs really quickly. Now, we don't know because the timing is awkward. We had this case in Karnataka where there's one of the bullock race guys, somebody said he runs faster than Bolt. But he was brought into the system, thank God, tested. I wonder he could remain there. Maybe he was a little too old, I don't know. But do you have space for 8 to 18 who are potentially very high talent?
Yeah, so Charu, I think one thing which we haven't done, Inspire Institute of Sport has actually progressed beyond just the high performance center in Bellary or in Vijayanagar. We have a center in Hisar in Haryana. That's a PPP with the Sports Authority of India. That's a feeder academy to our center in Vijayanagar. But I think to answer your question, I'll give you the example of the work that we are doing in Odisha, thanks to Sumit, who basically helped us when he was working with the Odisha government. So it's a perfect model for us. We are in swimming. We have 13 centers all across Odisha. in different villages. We have almost 9,000 athletes as on date. I was just checking the figures 3 days back because it's the monthly report that we sent to our founder. 9,000 athletes who swim every day. So we are working in the grassroots space. We realize that it's not only that you have to work only in the high performance space at all. As Gaganji said that, matlab, wo niche se to uthana to padega. So then you'll have to work very, in a focused and targeted manner. So we have taken that challenge in swimming because swimming is something that we feel that there's a lot of work that needs to happen from the early ages, which is why we have gone into that space. The other example is Manipur. We are into a sport called judo, which not many people in the country really follow. But when we looked at our data, that from where are these high-performing athletes are coming, we saw that bulk of that is coming from Manipur. So we said, let's go backward integrate. We adopted 3 academies over there. So it's not that Inspire only works with high-performing athletes. It's also that very strategically, very tactfully, and in a very focused manner, we said, we'll go back, do a backward integration and work with these spaces so that we get better athletes who we can then finish and who can finally help us achieve that dream, which is the gold.
Well, it's really nice to hear that because, and you mentioned my sport, you mentioned aquatics, swimming. I have to admit, much as I love my sport, we are very, very, very far behind the rest of the world. And it's going to take a crazy amount of effort. The building of many pools, for instance, in every district or wherever. So we can imagine how many districts in India, we need a pool. That's going to be a huge task. But maybe the Telangana government can think about constructing a few pools that can be used for not grassroots so much, but the talented youngsters who are brought in from around the state who are actually taught to be swimming quickly and, of course, then move the sport forward. Because we have such few pools in India and there are such few centers, maybe a couple in Bangalore, a couple in Bombay, 1 or 2 in Delhi. How are we going to produce world-class swimmers from 4, 5, 6 pools? It's just not possible. So a lot of work needs to be done in terms of infrastructure. Which of course brings me to the big word, one of the many big words, infrastructure. And Gagan, your sport particularly requires infrastructure. I think it's doing very well because ranges are sprouting in everybody's home. But are you happy with that progress or much more needs to be done?
Well, I think, Charu, the idea is not to just create huge, big, white elephants. I think if Paris has taught us something, it has taught us that athletes are not coming from big shooting ranges or big stadiums or big training centers. They are coming from small training centers which have the right kind of coaching systems in place, which have the right kind of coaches and the manpower, which is then being honed at a better center. If you see the example of a Saurav Chaudhary trained at his small range in his district, you see Ella Vinil or you see Ramita trained at a small 10-range shooting lane in Chennai. You see Dhanush Shrikant trained at a small shooting range in Hyderabad. So I think what is sport teaching us now is to have the right kind of people at the right place. And if you're able to utilize 60% of the existing infrastructure that we have, I think we'll be way, way ahead from where we are at this point of time. So infrastructure, while I say could be a deterrent, but is not something that is limiting at this point of time for a lot of sports that we are focused in. Yes, if you talk about cycling, we need more velodromes. If we talk about winter sports, we need more ice stadiums and so on and so forth. But if you talk about mother sports like Adil sir was telling me yesterday, athletics, swimming and gymnastics, if you are able to focus primarily on these 3 sports for your talent pool, I think you get a lot of champions coming out from there. You spoke about swimming. The recreational aspect of swimming in itself is an impediment for producing champions. Because in a lot of pools, an elite swimmer takes in 1 or 2 lanes completely, which again for a swimming academy monetizes it for the perspective of 6 or 8 players. So a lot of this high performance time. So we need swimming pools, but we need high performance swimming pools dedicated for performance, not for recreation. So that is where the switch will come from the perspective of infrastructure.
Yeah, every once in a while I listen to that and my heart sinks a bit because we need so much to develop in the world of sports, especially where it requires, say, a pool, which is heavy infrastructure. Not so for athletics, because you might think that, a big track and field stadium is required. But you, Anju, are lucky because many disciplines within athletics don't really require a massive infrastructure. And do you think enough is being done to try and get the talent that is available in India to at least showcase somewhere or the other and somehow be found and then maybe be then fast-tracked into stadiums and better infrastructure?
Yeah, definitely infrastructure is must. But it's not like infrastructure what we call it as big stadiums. We don't need it. It should be a training place, plain training place. Even for swimming, just a pool, it's not the real pool, just a water where we can do swimming, that's enough. As he said, athletics, gymnastics, and swimming, that is the basic events where we can teach the kids at very young age, and they can just take their sport later stages. But in athletics, what we need, as you said, if some young kid is very quick and we say he is going to be run faster than Usain Bolt, no, because his muscles are just, some kids actually at very young age, they will show the talent, but only the slow performers will stay long. That is a proven science. So identify the young talents rightly and nurture them without any injury, because I faced a lot of injuries at my very young age and still believe maybe 720, 730 was beyond, within my capacity. Many times I crossed 720 in my training, but unfortunately not in competitions with this dead leg. So I always tell, avoid injury, groom them properly. Infrastructure we need, but as he said, we don't need massive infrastructure for training. Just a training place is enough for training.
You mentioned another very important word, coaching. And before I get to you two gentlemen, if you don't mind, from Anju once again, where are we in our understanding of the concept of coaching? Because there's always a battle. Local coach, my coach, international coach, big coach, medal-winning coach. So it's not easy. And of course, the world of coaches also costs. But should we compromise on that? Or should we say, no, if we want to improve on sport, we have to spend on bringing in the best coaches from around the world, those who have proven ability or have shown medal winners, and then, of course, have them train our coaches. Because there seems to be still a reluctance on getting best coaches from around the world, apart from the commercial factor, of course.
Yeah, definitely, but at very young age, they need a coach who can identify the talent and who can nurture them properly. But at a top level, we need specialized coaches who can groom the athlete to the podium. So these, unfortunately in India, most of our coaches are not well equipped. They are not getting exposure. Athletes are getting exposure, but coaches are not getting exposure. They are just sitting at the same place where they are. So they cannot go, they cannot go with the athlete when they go for the major championships. They are not able to actually transfer their knowledge to athlete according to their requirements. So we need to, in Athletic Federation, we are actually giving courses for the coaches. Every year they are learning many things. But as I said, when I was an athlete, when I was preparing for Olympics or World Championships, Bobby was my coach. And he's the best coach. I know. But we have taken a decision, go to Mike Powell, who's the world record holder, just to understand the science behind long jump, because Americans are far better than any other country. So I went there. I was there for almost 1 month. Yeah, just 1 month I was there. I learned the approach fast. Then rest is history. I got a world championship medal because I just need that minute technique.
It's all about fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning, that's the right word, yes.
Tathagat, quick question. You guys are running one of the most fabulous institutions in the country for high performance. What is your, if I can use the term, compromise level on coaches? Because you obviously can't have the best from around the world there all the time. How do you handle the whole coaching aspect? Or do you allow people to just come and bring their own coaches and get on with it? And we provide you the facility.
Not really. I mean, we don't compromise on the coaching aspect at all. And we don't really care what is the nationality of the coach, as long as the ability is there. And when we select the coaches, they go through a very rigorous process. And for that, we have a high performance director and there's a committee also that we have, which we have set up, who go through each of the CVs very clearly. But at the same time, say for example, if we get a international coach, one of the deliverables is very clear that you have to kind of train an Indian coach as a successor. It's very, very clear. At the same time, apart from this, what we do is we have various clinics. 2 weeks back, we had a UWW coaching camp, a women's coaching camp in our institute in Vijayanagar. Before that, we ensured that the UWW team sent their coach instructors, and we trained our coaches along with some of our friends in the industry from the Wrestling Federation of India. So we have understood that there is a problem. We need to import some services, but at the same time, we are cognizant that there has to be some kind of succession. So we are not making any compromises on that. Without that, if we compromise, we are not going to get the results that we want.
I don't know, maybe I used a word that's prickling you a bit. I didn't mean compromise, but the fact that, there has to be a balance between, I suppose, utilizing homegrown coaches and getting some from around the world. Mr. Ranjan, sir, one more heartfelt appeal. All these facilities that will definitely happen here in Telangana soon. Coaching is something that you probably need to pay a lot of attention to in terms of getting, at least for a short while, the best in the business from around the world. That's very kind of you. So, and of course, a program to then coach whatever local talent is available so that it can be sustainable, because that coach will go away after a while, and then what? So that's one very important aspect of creating some really good sports persons as we go along. All right, back to you, Sumit. Your thoughts, because I have given you my opinion, which wasn't very favorable, and I'm sorry, but that's my truth. What's your truth? About 0 to 100, how much is corporate India? Because ultimately, you can say it's all about individual effort and hard work and perspiration, all that. I'm afraid to add that one of the most important ingredients going forward to make a world-class athlete is also commerce. To use a less respectful word, money. Now, corporate India, to my mind, has not even scratched the surface. What are your thoughts?
I think I'll break down corporates into a...
Sorry, I will qualify that. Not sponsorship.
Yes.
Actual holding babies in their hand and taking sport forward.
Yeah. So I would call it the private sector as a whole, because private sector is a combination of big corporate conglomerates
Yes,
private
sector.
As well as smaller private businesses, right? I see 2-3 pronged roles, to be honest. One is, of course, with the CSR bit that's already been happening, wherein the government is setting up the infrastructure and the corporate is coming in and sort of bringing in either through themselves or through eminent technical partners such as Gagan sir or Abhinav sir, and creating an ecosystem of sports development. That's sort of the one.
You find that private players in India are actually coming forward for more sporting facilities, not just sponsorship? They are?
They are. They
Okay,
are. They
nice to
absolutely
hear.
are. I think Odisha did that very successfully.
That's not private. That's public. That's the government. They're doing really good work, I must admit. I'm talking about the private sector in India. How are they taking steps forward to come and support sport at various levels, not just sponsoring a medal winner, which is only at the end of the chain, as Gagan very importantly pointed out earlier?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that was still a PPP partnership that was set up in Odisha. So there was private contribution coming in there as well from the likes of JSWs and Reliances and so on. But I think the bigger role that private needs to play is with the infrastructure at the lower strata, which ma'am was also referring to, right? I think I'll take our minds back to late 2000s when there was a big advent of artificial turfs coming up all over the country, which resulted in a lot of businesses coming up, which resulted in a lot of proliferation for football as a sport. Now you're seeing another cycle of that with the likes of paddle and pickle, right? So it is a very, very clear indication that if you are able to create the right set of circumstances for a sport to develop, the private sector will be incentivized to bring themselves into the game, and that in return will bolster the lower layer, the broad basing of the sport, as we call it in the sport development pyramid, right?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that I believe is also a key role of the private stakeholder. The third key role which I see is being able to bring more commercial uptake to existing sports. And I think a very good example of that, which something that the Athletics Federation of India along with JSW was able to set up, was around the NC Classic, for example. You're bringing the best javelin throwers in the country, across the world, into the country, and not just doing it as a sport development activity, but you're trying to create a commercial model around it, right? It goes back to the point that I was originally saying, that if you want long-term development to happen in sport, you have to find avenues of not just relying on public money in order to create that broad basing of the sport. And by creating champions, by showing champions to a young audience, you're able to actively get the private stakeholders to come and set up, and you're able to get the public to come and spend on that setup. And that ecosystem is what is actually essential to create a sustainable model.
Yeah, that's still probably very urban, you know, in terms of utilization. One of the many problems with sport in India, because of the kind of nation we are, is that, and this is, I mean, I love saying this, but I shouldn't say, perhaps I shouldn't say it in public, but I'll say it anyway, is that those who can afford to play don't usually have enough hunger. And those who have the hunger to really succeed don't have the money. Now, how do we put it together? It's a very tough proposition. And that's where this public-private partnership is very important, because who is the largest landowner in the country? I'll answer it, the government. So if the government says, okay, we can't maybe do much, but we have this land that we can try and spare for sport, then can somebody come up and have this partnership that you were talking about and take it forward? And the key word you used earlier, I almost interrupted you, but then I didn't, is incentivize. Now, the private sector is a private sector for a reason, because they look for incentives everywhere. And I don't think we should be saying, all right, private sector, we can't give you any incentive, you just spend here and go. They'll probably say, bye-bye. But if there's some incentives, as I'm sure the Telangana government is planning, I've already heard when you said it earlier that there are all sorts of incentives for private players to come in, you will find a sea change happening in the country, because they need that little extra kick to come and combine with the public sector, which is the government. And I've said for the last 30, 50 years, if the government could only spare what they have a lot of, which is land, for such sporting schemes to develop, whether it's high performance or the middle performance or even at a lower level, that's a fantastic way to go forward. Of course, there have to be checks and balances, and I'm sure the government will put enough checks and balances in place to make sure that it's not being misused, this sort of incentivize, which is the way forward. मैंने भी अपने 2-4 point डाल दिए बीच में, माफी चाहता हूँ. One point very quickly is high performance floating down. Now, I had the pleasure, if I may say so, please forgive my modesty, of starting the Pro Kabaddi League. And a lot of people told me with good intentions, देखो ऐसा करो, ये कबड्डी बड़ी तो चलेगी नहीं. कहाँ आप जाके बड़े शहरों में फलाना ढिमकाना. आप ऐसा करो पहले कि ये स्कूलों में इसको पॉपुलराइज कराओ, स्कूलों में चलाओ, फिर उसके बाद जाके फिर थोड़ा देख लेना, शायद प्रो लेवल पे कुछ हो जाए. तो मैंने भी कहा हाँ, बहुत अच्छा आइडिया है सर. There are only about 5 million schools in India. और मैं हर स्कूल में जाऊंगा और वहाँ पॉपुलराइज कराऊंगा, एंड बाय द टाइम वी गेट टू द प्रो लीग कम से कम 22,000 साल हो जाएंगे, तो तब जाके शुरू करेंगे क्या? सो इफ यू हैव समथिंग राइट एट द टॉप, the trickle down effect is also very important in terms of aspiration and inspiration and so on and so forth. And they call it the Inspiration Institute of Sport, because if you're helping at the top, if you have this sports university, sir, and you know, it's only for people who have done really well, but the inspiration will come all the way down to the littlest person around, or maybe in any village, saying, that's where I want to be. So these initiatives at the top are also very, very important, because we get stuck in grassroots, we'll be there forever. But this gap has to be bridged with some high-performance academies, which I'm sure Telangana now are well on their way, springboard to get to those. Gagan, typically, we'll You know, the worst part about such sessions is that the one thing we remember is that we're completely out of time. Oh, sorry, completely out of time. And we haven't even started yet, because that's what sports all about. We can take hours on end and days on end. But we have to get some kind of a closing comment here going, which is a free-wheel closing comment. I'm not going to ask you any one thing or the other, but Gagan, your thoughts on why we are here today, because the Sports Conclave is a very, very important step for state governments, showing that they have the vision and the capacity. And hopefully the sustainabilities are very important to take these projects forward. Your closing comments, as it were, because we have about 8 minutes, maybe 2 minutes each.
4 minutes will be taken by Charu in the end. So
Sorry, I've taken my time, no more. I'll only come back to say thank you.
no,
Mic
but,
down.
no, but having said that, I think we had a fantastic discussion here. And taking a leaf from the earlier discussion, we all talk about PPP model. It's the buzzword. Can anyone tell me what PPP is?
Thank you.
Correct, public-private partnership. But we all forget another PPP that needs to be the foundation of the bigger PPP. And I think Telangana can be the first state to implement something like this. We'd all talk about the Odisha model and this state's model and that state's model. But can we think of a PPP? The first P means policy. The second P means program. And the third P can be performance. So if you are able to build this PPP, then the other PPP I think will not be a challenge, because the governance structure is laid in place, the credibility is laid in place, and the performance is eventually going to come. So I think this could be the first state that could implement the PPP that's necessary. Thank you.
No, we always say sports is a state subject, and now all the states, I guess, will come forward and take it as serious, and all the stakeholders should come together for a bigger goal. So we all need, and we all are expecting, and we all are dreaming big. That's Olympic glory. That's the ultimate glory. We are always dreaming, but some events like shooting and wrestling or boxing, they are winning medals, but athletics now we slowly starting. That's the mother of all the events, but that's the toughest event. We have to compete against maybe more than 200 countries, and that's the toughness. So winning a medal in Olympics in athletics, that is beyond anyone's dream, how much effort we need to put in. So I guess from now onwards, all the stakeholders will come together for a bigger dream, and we will achieve it.
Thank you. I'm just stepping in here for a second to remind everybody, and Anju, you're right. It's a crazy dream to try and go to the Olympics and win. Can we all imagine from absolutely nowhere comes this young man, starts throwing a spear, and then wins a gold medal at the Olympics? I mean, without a real system in place, I think Neeraj Chopra has been a huge inspiration. And we must applaud for what he's done to start off a crazy revolution. Fabulous. All right, it's to you, two gentlemen.
I think from my perspective, it was amazing to see all the amazing plans that the Telangana government has with regards to competition, with regards to academies, and then all of that flowing towards the high performance layer, right? I think one thing which is talked about, but probably not implemented, is having that tech stack that sort of powers this end to end. You know, with the CM Cup that I was able to understand from the sports department, there is such an amazing application of implementing basically a simple games management system that is able to track the performance of every athlete. And I believe the numbers could go up as high as 10,000, 15,000 players that we're talking about. Having a simple games management system that is able to consecutively track the performance of all of these athletes, flowing into athlete management systems where you're able to track the performances, track the inputs of the coaches, all of those things. They are at that point where they're starting on this journey. And I believe putting those right tech layers in place so as to build insights over the next 8 to 10 years, which then flows back into the system and is able to help them with better talent assessment when they're doing the same thing, maybe a couple of Olympic cycles later. So I would say congratulations to the government for putting together such an amazing policy. But I would say if they can also bolster that with a tech layer that powers it, I think there's something incredible about to happen here.
I have no doubt that the government of Telangana will focus on the tech capabilities of sport in terms of adding objectivity to all the progress, not just subjectivity, which is a very poor second to objectivity. Tathagat.
I just have two comments to make. I mean, with our experience working with various state governments, my role is Chief Operating Officer, but it's essentially always to look at practicality of any model that works. So the first thing, I think it needs to be very clear what role whoever you bring as a stakeholder, whether it's a private party or a KNSU or a LABRO, the roles have to be very, very clear. What happens sometimes is we try to do a lot of things and then it becomes a royal khichdi, right? So that should not happen. The second thing is in terms of targets. While we are the Inspired Institute of Sport, because we come from the JSW group, we operate also like a business at the end of the day. So we have very, very clear targets, whether it's for medals, in terms of how much you're going to spend, etc. So if you have that kind of a framework, you will be able to kind of create the kind of ecosystem which will push you to deliver results. But because if you don't get the results in the short run, the confidence doesn't come that, okay, that this is working, right? So I think these are just my two comments and advice. This will really help them to really have a long-term athlete development that they're talking about.
Yeah, so many more points to talk about, but time is very short. I think to sum up a bit what you said, a lot of people in our part of the world, we're essentially, I don't know, I'm making these sweeping statements, please forgive me. We're essentially a soft race. We have wonderful family connections, we have relationships, we're soft, and we sometimes can't take hard decisions. But sport is a very hard, brutal world. And decisions need to be taken in terms of culling, in terms of saying you have not met your targets, bye, next. All these tough decisions, if they're not taken, we will stay within our mediocrity. And while that might work for many worlds, mediocrity doesn't work very well for the world of sport. We need to be perfectionists. We need to be very hard with the whole system, with ourselves, with everybody, otherwise we're not going to go ahead. There was something that was also in our remit, what we should have been discussing today, but it's a little tricky when we get to governance, because sport has custodians at every level. And for all the custodians of sport, all I can say is, as a closing comment myself, because time is up, and I will not take 4 minutes, but only a few seconds, if we're not completely aware, or if you're not committed to ethics in our governance, best not to be in the world of governance. It's all about ethics and honesty. If we are not there, why are we in the world of sport? Because we don't want to encourage dishonesty in the world of sport at any level. It's the worst thing. I don't mean to say that sport exists on some other planet. It is also part of our world, and it'll suffer from all our worldly faults, but can we please pledge to keep sport as free from dishonesty and lack of ethics as possible? So that would be my closing plea, please. All right. I don't know who I'm supposed to hand this over to, but I think we are almost exactly on time, which is also something that we had to keep an eye on. A big thank you, please, to Gagan, to Anju, to Sumit and Tathagat. Thank you very much. And I hope all of these people here will continue to support the government of Telangana in all their initiatives, and may I include myself there as well. I'm here and happy to be, I have, like I said, an old history with Hyderabad, so I'd love to be a part of these initiatives as well. A very, very solid, important beginning has been made, and I congratulate the entire government once again. Mr. Ranjan, on behalf of the government, will you please accept our appreciation? Thank you very much for everything.